Hello and welcome to Virtual Concert Hall's live music channel. My name is Chris Au and I have with me the incredible Dr. Anna Ouspenskaya.
Chris, thank you for the introduction. And I'm so glad to be back here with our audience and looking forward to the next episode.
Absolutely. This is part 9. This is the finale of the documentary of Beethoven's Symphony No. 8, written and narrated by Lawrence Rapchak, created by New Media Productions Worldwide and Virtual Concert Halls, and produced by the Architects of Music.
And this incredible collaboration has been possible because it is our shared passion to be connecting musicians and audiences in real-time musical performances and live programs from around the globe.
For our coda. It's the main theme now with rustic horns and bassoons, which can't play the rapid triplet figures like the strings, so Beethoven slows the triplets down by half. And since the basic interval of the third, that is 3 notes apart, these 2 notes, the third, since it's in a way the primal cell of this finale that animates everything with that triplet figure, Beethoven now, in the coda, distills, he concentrates the sound of the entire orchestra into this tiny 2-note cell, F and a third, and it shimmers in the strings like a wide-open vista of nature, from the very highest down through the entire range of the orchestra to the lowest, the celli and bassoons, and then all the way back up again. And then it happens again, doubling the speed of the thirds. And those bouncing timpani return in the distance, and we hear the sprightly descending theme, almost like a final farewell, and our shepherd's call echoing in the strings. It's amazing, and it clearly evokes the serene, cheerful world of nature, the expression of feeling, as Beethoven mentioned in the Sixth Symphony. But as it's fading away, the music then reverses and begins to crescendo into big F major, and Beethoven again relies on the fundamental power and logic of the tonic and dominant tonic harmonies to bring the music to a close, including a virtuosic, nearly unplayable passage for the 2 timpani, both tuned to F, high and low, and so technically beyond what any orchestral drummer of the day would be expected to play, unless, say, Buddy Rich's great-great-great-great-grandfather happened to be sitting in there in Vienna back then. At any rate, here is Beethoven's nature coda, beginning with the sound of echoing thirds throughout the orchestra, and continuing on to the end. And the thirds shimmering from highest to lowest, and ascending, and now again, twice as fast, and the timpani, and our sprightly tune, and the main motive in the distance. But now a crescendo, and the timpani. And more timpani. And all tonic, F major, right to the end. Beethoven's ingenious use of the timpani to play the octave Fs would carry over into his next and final symphony, where the boldness of this device and those same 2 notes would contribute mightily to the epic nature of that work's scherzo. But here in the finale of the Eighth, all is joyous, raucous, unstoppable energy. This is supposedly a lightweight work, a homage to the old world style of Haydn and all of that. But don't let anybody tell you it's a lesser work, even compared to the Fifth and Seventh. Like all of Beethoven's symphonies, the Eighth is a landmark in music with its own unique language and fresh, bold approach. And completed during the fall of 1812, when Beethoven's life was about to crater into a troubling period of depression and creative malaise, which looked as if it might develop into a serious mental health crisis. But the tides of history now swept in to rescue Beethoven. Throughout 1813, Napoleon was in various stages of retreat from his disastrous Russian campaign, and he suffered two major military defeats, one in Spain at the hands of the British Duke of Wellington, and the other at Leipzig. So patriotic fervor in Vienna was soaring. Enter the impresario and inventor Johann Melzel, who loved creating and promoting and tinkering with mechanical contraptions, including his metronome, and who brought to Beethoven his sketches for a new popular musical potpourri of British and French patriotic tunes, which Beethoven filled out and orchestrated as his Wellington's Victory, premiered at a huge gala concert in December of 1813 with an all-star roster of musicians performing in the orchestra. Antonio Salieri was there, Ludwig Spohr, Giacomo Meyerbeer, Ignaz Moscheles, Johann Hummel, most of them sitting in as percussionists, drums, cymbals, and cannons, etc. Can you imagine old Salieri beating away on a cannon drum? It's all true. You cannot make this stuff up. This concert was a sensation, as was the premiere of Beethoven's own Seventh Symphony on the same program. So things were definitely on the upswing for him. A few months later, Beethoven secured funding to repeat the program, and he added the premiere of the Eighth Symphony to the concert. And then to continue to capitalize on the spirit of the times, Beethoven's 1805 opera Fidelio was revised and performed now to great acclaim, followed by the historic Congress of Vienna, an 8-month shindig ostensibly to draw up a peace treaty and lay out plans for European stability in the post-Napoleonic era, but which, according to author Maynard Solomon, was also an excuse for an endless succession of, quote, balls, banquets, gala performances, tournaments, hunts, theatricals, sleighing expeditions, ballets, operas, balloon ascents, and torchlight parades, unquote. I mention all of this because Beethoven was the big musical superstar of this 8-month extravaganza, the Congress of Vienna. His music was continually being played. So things had definitely turned around for him. But in November of 1815, Beethoven's brother Caspar Karl died, and thus began a lengthy, rancorous battle between Beethoven and his brother's widow for guardianship of their son Karl, Beethoven's nephew. Again, I mention this unpleasant business because it serves as a backstory that will lead us to Beethoven's final creative period. And again, it's astounding when we attempt to reconcile, on the one hand, the all-too-real conflicts and character flaws in Beethoven's personal life with the deepening and sublime vision of his art. So while we take a moment to ponder this, before moving on to Beethoven's final symphony, here he is in a lighter, more populist mood, definitely not among his most profound works. But it certainly pulled him out of his great emotional crisis of 1813. And considering Beethoven's increasing deafness and his occasional hints of suicide, this work, Wellington's Victory, might have actually saved his life.
Well,
Boy,
there you are. There you go. The end. That's it. What a great way to add some historical context, right, to this whole symphony and everything that's been happening.
it's interesting. I've heard the Wellington Victory before, and the common sense in in my circles of academic musicians with the classical background was that, oh, that's an oddity piece. It's like, okay, hooligan kind of oddity. But this is the first time I heard the episode from it in a long, long time. Maybe, I don't know, a few decades.
Yeah.
Shh, I'm that old. Since my students' years. And it's stunning how different it sounds to me today. It was just very, very different. I guess since then I've learned a thing or two about the music. And one of the things I learned actually later than my college years was the sound of the medieval and Renaissance outdoor music. There was a whole set of genres created for outdoor music. Of course, I knew that from the music history courses and all that. And but somehow the sound of that music passed, off my memory. I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. I mean, the heritage we have with music is just so vast. I guess maybe my professors didn't pay too much attention to that. There were more important things for us to learn. And I wasn't really interested. I wasn't really into the medieval and Renaissance music too much. But then later, I don't know, maybe 15 or 10 years ago, I got more interested in it, and I discovered that there are obvious bridges between that period's particularly outdoor music, which was basically the genres which supported outdoorsy events, banquets, balls, hunting events, and celebrations, festivals, that kind of thing, and the 20th/21st century rock music, because the drums of the time, which were precursors, of course, of the classical period drums,
Yeah.
yeah, those drums were given the role of a modern day rock drum set.
Yeah.
And the rhythms which were composed for those musicians were really skilled who played those drums. And there was a huge variety of drums, and they're loud. They don't even need an amplifier. They're designed for
Wow.
outdoor. They're blasting your eardrums. And but also the rhythms which were composed for those drums were so complex and so invigorating. And some of them really resemble the offbeat styles of the rock and pop and especially rock music. It's a heavy metal kind of music.
Yeah. I think one thing that I am slowly learning as I'm discovering more music and being part of what we do is that one must never underestimate the incredible skill and knowledge and wisdom and abilities of our predecessors. Like there's a kind of tendency within our modern era to think of the past as just ignorant peasantry and just small-minded, whereas I think I mean, it might be smaller in the context of how much knowledge they could access across the world, but in terms of the skill level, in terms of the amazing, incredible way they can capture all of this with and perfect and refine their skill. It's quite incredible. And what you're saying, it really elucidates that. Like, we can never really underestimate those drummers back then. Like, they could probably just play as easily in a modern rock band absolutely without much of a training. They could just, yeah. That sounds, I
Oh
could do
yeah,
that.
just give me the tune. What's your rhythm pattern?
Yeah, they
What's your
may not
track?
like know how to go live stream, but that's okay. They can do
They
many
probably
different
could
things.
learn
Yeah. They were like,
in
oh,
the
okay, I
same
see.
amount of time as you and me.
Yeah, so I think that's something that what you said reminded me of, and what's also interesting as I'm listening to this Wellington's Victory, and a little small snippet, and might be interesting to hear the whole thing for me, is that yeah, the music isn't it's not a symphony, but it's also not meant to be a symphony. It's not meant to be something like that. It's meant to be something fun and outdoorsy and loud and accessible for everybody to celebrate something. And I can't remember when the last time we've had music that's just purely written for celebratory reasons to celebrate. I mean, maybe the Olympic Games. Maybe something was written for the Olympic Games or something like that. But it's this joyous occasion. And what really struck me time and time again is that Beethoven has an incredible way of writing um, the music of triumph,
Yeah.
of glory, of rising to the heavens, and how I don't know. It's remarkable. You just feel like everything's gonna be great. Everything's gonna be amazing, and we're gonna rise up to the heavens. The cherubim and the seraphim and the angels are all singing gloriously, and that's exactly how it probably sounds.
Yeah, and it's incredible coming from the composer whose focus was on drama.
Yeah,
And that's drama, friction, conflict, explosion of
yeah,
conflict, and dissonant, and
yeah,
yeah. And then he seems to always be rising from the ocean and turmoil of dramatic events and
yeah.
conflict up to such a intense joy. There are composers who wrote very joyful music, and it's peaceful and it's glorious and all. I would say Beethoven's intensity doesn't stop when he rises above the turbulent seas. When he goes up to the sky, it's just as intense.
Yeah, it really is. There's I think that's probably why he's such a good dramatist. He's able to do both the tension and friction and also the release of it, and to make us feel all these different emotions. And I think from the depths of what he had to, I mean, you compared this, Symphony number five, and we're about to head into Symphony number three, where the drama is at its like just incredible peak. But he's also able to do all these other things, and it goes back to the question we raised last time. What is Beethoven like as a constructor, as a builder? Does he kind of gets all the pieces and then assembles it, or does he assemble a bit at a time and gets what he needs as he assembles it? Is it linear, or is it sort of like a macro micro situation, or from micro to the macro? And that's a very good question. I think if only we could, live stream his compositional process, that would be quite an interesting thing. It might be a lot of yelling and angry scribbling, and but it will be very interesting for us to find out what his process really is. And I think it's just remarkable that we get this kind of music and for it to be so impactful even today.
Yeah, I wish I could ask him the question. I'm really curious what he actually did. It's one thing for us to speculate based on the heritage which we inherited from him, but it's different to ask the actual creator of it. So, well, I don't know. Maybe in Havens when we meet, I'll ask him.
Yeah. So because this is the final episode of the Beethoven Symphony number eight, I would sort of like to ask you, Dr. Ano, and so let's do a summary of like what we've kind of enjoyed so far of this Beethoven Eighth Symphony, right? There's this incredible sort of simplification almost to sort of the feeling of Beethoven's first and second symphony, this idea, or maybe even the fourth, where the structures are sort of seemingly back to normal. We don't have these programmatic notes that we have of Beethoven's sixth. We don't have the crazy drama, but we still have some drama. We still have things that are very interesting. We still have something that I think is a single thread throughout Beethoven's music, which is he takes very simple, small motives and blasts them into space. His whole world is made out of these little things, sort of like a forest is made out of leaves and pieces of wood, and he
Yeah,
just
at
constructs
one
them.
point I remember Larry Rapchak brought up a few lines or paragraphs from Beethoven's sketchbooks, and Beethoven was really fascinated with the concept of the universe coming out of the smallest elements, atoms, and getting those combined into everything and anything, from matter to explosions and energy. So he was very much into the science of the time of that, and maybe that had some. I'm sure it did, because the philosophical and scientific exploration definitely translates into one's creations in the art. So that attention to the possibility and potency of a small
Yeah.
element in the context and through interaction and energy definitely was one of Beethoven's fields, playing grounds.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as someone who I think I would encourage anybody if they have the ability to learn music and to learn how Beethoven writes these little things, because it's a really good study, I think, of how art can be engaging. And we see this in writing. If you evoke similar motives or ideas and to reuse them and to generate them, it makes the reader there's a cohesion actually, and so that when you kind of go from one end of the story to another and you see these little pieces of the puzzle fall into place, it's quite a remarkable thing. So we have the little pieces, we have the structure, we have sort of how he treats a minuet, a scherzo. We have his take on this use of the horn, especially in the second movement, which becomes more and more. I wouldn't say more and more beautiful, but I guess it's more and more developed in its sense, and how he uses dissonances within the orchestral sphere to just make something just blossom. And one thing that he never really lets go of, which I really adore, is this idea of the pastoral, the bucolic natural scenes. Not so much, let's say, like of the ocean and the mountains. I mean, although that sometimes happens, but very simple, like the fields of a farm or just a little forest and there's a little meadow. And I appreciate that because it's not like, oh, he climbed Mount Everest and that's his he only depicts the best mountains. It's like it's so accessible. It's so easy. Like you could just go maybe 20-30 minutes from the main city center and you can experience that sort of peace within the pastoral. Do you have any other things to add about that
There
you
is one more
notice? Yeah.
thing which I find
Yeah.
remarkable of Beethoven, and I appreciate that Larry Rapchak keeps circling back to that element of Beethoven's creativity, which is humor. And
Yeah.
it seems like in all the lows and highs, valleys and mountains, and the forests and all the emotions and all that, to me at least, it seems like his music is always walking fine line between being profoundly serious and tragic and glorious and all those important things in life, but it's walking fine line, and at any moment it can just slip to the other side of it and add a humorous element. And the other thing about Beethoven's humor, I find it so healthy. Like
Yeah.
his humor always brings the burst of joy,
Yeah.
and it's the laughter kind of humor, not the toxic, sarcastic humor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to me, that I just don't like the toxic humor. I don't know. I personally just don't like it. So that that's one of my big attractions to Beethoven's music in particular, because his humor always evokes the joyful release of tension.
Yeah, you always feel like there's a beer in his hand as he's laughing. There's
You
always
like to
like
say
a,
that, and I
yeah,
avoid
yeah.
it.
It's a little, yeah. There's a kind
Firmag.
of openness to it. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for this incredible symphony. When you see us next, we'll be surrounded by a very different background, a very different feel, because we're heading into Beethoven's Third Symphony, the Eroica Symphony, which is another incredible piece of music that I think is a revolution in itself. But more on that later. I want to give a big thanks to our sponsors, our supporters, our collaborators. Thank you for joining us. Thank Thank you for being a part of our seasons throughout. Please make comments and suggestions and post questions to us. And we would love to explore these questions as you join us on this journey of Beethoven's 9 symphonies. Make sure you check us out on our Music and Musicians live show. We do many incredible auditions and competitions and ways in which young musicians can interact with older musicians. In sort of a live feedback form. We do many different shows all over the US and all over the world, in fact, engaging many symphonies, many orchestras, and many talented musicians. A big thanks to our team, our incredible team who has been with us and has developed and learned how to put these shows together. We're all made out of incredible musicians who would have a career on their own, but they've also just come to do this, which is an incredible feat in itself, and to further the accessibility of music.
And thank you, Chris, very much for being my co-host. I love balancing ideas together with you, and later maybe we'll revisit how this all developed. It's the end of the show, and I want to thank Larry Rapchak and Steve Robinson, who are the monumental figures behind this creation, and this collaboration has been incredibly enriching for me personally, and helping the cohesion of our team. So thank you all very much. Thank you, our audience, for your attention. Throw us ideas at us, and we're always looking to connect with people and to support your ideas and to do something which hasn't been done yet.
Yeah, something revolutionary, just like Beethoven. And with that, I'll see you next time for Beethoven number 3, Eroica, Part 1. Bye, everyone.
Bye now.